This is Johnny with Tiger Bomb MMA, and today I'll be going over UFC Fight Night, aka the Ultimate Fighter finale, Santos versus Hill, giving you my thoughts, predictions, possible parlays. I think I do have a possible dumb parlay for this one that I'm gonna go for. But before I break down these fights, I wanted to go over last night's fights, the UFC 277. Give you my thoughts on those, just because there's some oddities there. But you can skip this. There should be a link in the description to skip this shit if you don't want to see it. But first thoughts: Orion Kosuke versus Blood Diamond. Wrestling, I suppose. Neither looked impressive. Blood Diamond, I mean, he's good on the feet. Like, I liked what I saw, but he needs to really keep training that takedown defense and the ground game itself. Orion Kosuke, I mean, he looked every bit of his record, and he looked every bit of a guy who's too green for the UFC. Both of these guys, I think Mike Matitha, if he makes the right adjustments, he should be pretty decent. They'll give him a can next time, and he'll get a spectacular knockout, and it'll kind of build his reputation up. And Orion, after the win, I just don't see who they're going to match him up with that he can beat. Like, he's just kind of pedestrian everywhere. But we'll see what happens. Like, everyone can make improvements. Nego Mariano versus Ihor Potieria. Jesus Christ. Like, it's one of those times where, like, I know, like, my eyes tell me something, like Igor's not ready, but you kind of doubt yourself. So I pulled the trigger before I even like did any tape watch on either of these guys. I always trust Nego Mariano to fight for my money, and he fought for my money, man. Like, he made me a couple units profit, but I unfortunately blew that on a couple of fights later in the night. But it was like exactly what I pictured Nego Mariano to do: slow him down and then blast him, which he did. Ihor, he said something really stupid about, like, one day people are gonna come to a field arena to see me fight. I'm like, dude, like, don't say shit like that. It is the same kind of thing that what's his name, the Jamaican sensation guy, not Neil Magny, but the flyweight, Ode Osborne would say. And that's always a bad sign when guys are so full of themselves, and when you look into the record and it's not all that impressive, and you see as Dan Levy says, like, fighting ice cream vendors. It was expected, really, but I'm happy for Nego Mariano to finally get like a brutal knockout, especially over a guy like Ihor. So it served him right for talking all that shit. Ihor, that is. I think he was talking shit to Sean Strickland too, trying to fight him. And I mean, granted, Strickland did say some shit about Ukraine, but still was like, focus on your fight. And then the moment I saw that on Twitter, I'm like, this guy's gonna get his ass beat. But we'll see what happens with this guy. They'll probably throw him a bone, but he did not look UFC ready. I'll say that. Next bout, Ji Young Kim versus Jocelyn Edwards. I know a lot of people were on Kim as a dog, and I felt for him. Like, it was a close enough fight, but Kim just didn't throw. Edwards, she's not as bad as people think she is. Like, she is, but she's not all that terrible. Like, she can edge out a decision just based on the optics of things, and she did that. So good for her. Next bout, Michael Morales versus Adam Fugit. I mean, Fugit looked pretty good. Like, he didn't look like a bum out there. He didn't look like he didn't belong. Like, he 100% deserved. I know it was short notice, but he deserved to be in there. Like, he proved it. But Michael Morales, he really impressed me. Like, he has to refine some things, right? But his composure was phenomenal. Like, he got taken down. He's like, whatever. Like, I'll work my way up. He wasn't panicking. He wasn't overworking. He just stayed calm. And then by the end of the fight, he wasn't even breathing heavy. I was like, this guy might be something really, really special. Like, he just has to, change some things, work on his boxing combinations. He kept throwing the right hand a little too much for my liking, but he was landing, and he would land with power. So he needs to actually go back to doing some wrestling, because he just kept it on the feet and kind of bummed me out a little bit. Like, I wanted to see a bit more dominance, but overall solid performance. Adam Fugit, I think he's going to be a pretty good overall addition to the welterweight division. Like, it was impressive. Despite him losing, he showed toughness and a willingness to scrap, so can't blame him for that. Next bout, Drakkar Klose, Rafa Garcia. It was surprisingly close, no pun intended. I think we all kind of knew that going in. Rafa Garcia makes these fights kind of grimy and dirty sometimes. Drakkar Klose as well. He makes fights really grimy and dirty, but he did enough to win. I think his cardio was the key factor here, and he did what he had to do to get the decision. Unfortunately, didn't take him. I should have added him to a couple parlays, because the first 4 fights I got spot on, and then things kind of derailed. Dontel Mays versus Hamdi. Oh shit, Hamdi Abdelwa fraud, but he ended up getting the win. Um, I'm in the side that, like, as much as I love shitting on people, like, it's so funny to joke about Dontel Mays losing to a guy who was 3-0, and then they had to alter his record in the UFC broadcast to show 5-0. Shit like that. Like, it's funny, but like, I'm more disappointed on Dontel. Like, he made some really bad decisions in there. And props to Hamdi. I mean, he came in short notice. He did what he had to do. He threw bombs and he got the takedown. He controlled, but he showed horrible composure and gas tank issues. Like, his striking in the first round wasn't all that bad. Like, I was surprised. I'm like, oh shit, maybe this guy's not a fraud. But like, he has some work to do. But I can't complain about a guy going out there and banging. Dontel Mays, though, it was like, dude, you had every advantage, height, reach. Not, I don't even know if he had the weight advantage, but the experience, and he still went out there and performed like a bonehead. And that's like the most disappointing thing. I didn't really put a whole ton of money on him. I had like one parlay with Dontel, and either way would have lost because of another fighter. But it's still like, come on, man, like, you're better than that. But apparently not. Next bout, Drew Dober versus Rafael Alves. This fight was incredible. Like, as always, you can't count out Drew Dober. I had a unit on Alves, which lost, but I wasn't disappointed in that loss. Like, Alves did what I thought he would do, at least in the first round, took him down. He was throwing bombs. It's just that Drew Dober's chin is just impenetrable. Jesus Christ. He took an overhand left to the jaw. It moved him a little bit, but he just kept going forward. But Drew Dober was incredible, man. Attacking the body, I was like, damn, those body shots are concerning, because Alves, despite him not really looking like he was slowing down, I was like, dude, like, just take him down. Like, he was killing time, and I was getting a little bit worried in the third round, but I'm like, you know what? It's nothing too significant. He's moving well. Gas tank is good. And then bam, left to the body, crumbles him. And like, I'm not upset at Rafael for losing. It's just like, Drew Dober just hit him in the sweet spot, and that should happen sometimes. But props to Dober. Like, again, I'm a big fan of Dober. I just thought I'd take a shot on Alves at nearly plus 200 odds. Didn't pan out. But Jesus, that was a fun fight. Next bout, Morono versus Semmelsberger. Another fight. I put a couple units on Semmelsberger like an idiot. I took all the profit that I made from Ego Mariano. I'm like, fuck it, I'll put it on Semmelsberger. Like, live betting is not my friend sometimes. I make some really stupid mistakes, and this was one of them. But I had some confidence in Semmelsberger, despite knowing that Morono is like it's a really difficult fighter to fight sometimes. But again, the chin, I tend to fade the chin. And in that third round, I was like, yeah. And, but Morono's really gotten better at composing himself when he's hurt, which in the past he would just kind of like flop around, stick his hands out. And I mean, I can't be mad at Semmelsberger. He did everything he could. He got compromised early, which surprised the shit out of me that Morono was able to crack him, because Semmelsberger was eating shots from Chaos Williams and just not budging. And Morono cracks him with like a really perfectly timed, I believe it was like a left hook counter, and it just kind of stumbled him a bit. But, Morono's on a good win streak. And I think it was Moicano who tweeted something really funny. He said that Morono is a guy who doesn't look good fighting, but he's a very good fighter. I'm like, I got to agree with that. He's really fucking good. It's just that he's kind of funky sometimes. You can't always trust him to make the right decisions when he's hurt. And he made the right decisions this time. I did find it a bit bullshit that he gets dropped nearly finished in the third, and one of the judges gave him the third round, but it's to be expected in Texas. Next bout, Magomed Ankalaev versus Anthony Smith. Another bad bet for me. I took some like winnings that I had earlier and put it on Anthony Smith by finish. And if it went to a decision, I would get my money back. One of those things. I just like, you never know, right? Anthony Smith likes to crack, and then his ankle went out. Last I heard, I might have misheard it. I was in the shower listening to the press conference, but Dana said that his ankle wasn't fractured, so I don't know what happened. But Magomed put it on him. Magomed has a certain way of like lulling you to sleep, and then when you rush him, he counters you. And I honestly think it was more of Anthony Smith making mistakes in this fight, opposed to Magomed making the right moves. I mean, he did make the right moves when it came to forcing the finish, of course, but when it got to like Anthony Smith making the mistake of putting himself in that position where he did get finished, it was just all him. Like I don't know. I guess I can't comment. It's just, I can't really comment because I don't know how badly compromised he was, but he did what he had to do, and it just kind of led to that finish. But Magomed, I hate to say it though, because I am a fan of Magomed. I picked him to win. I just kind of hedged the bet. It was more of like I wasn't all impressed in that situation. Like he's very technically good, but I do wonder like a crazy guy like Jiri would do. Like if he forces the fight and he makes him uncomfortable, like is he going to be strong enough to take him down and hold him down? I would say yes, but there's always that possibility of that like crazy flying knee that cracks him. But we'll see what happens. I do think Magomed needs one more fight before he fights for the title, though. Like maybe Jan Blachowicz would be a fantastic fight. That way it weeds out that division. Because yeah, I think someone mentioned that both those guys, Magomed and Jan, they both won their last fights via technical injury of some sort. So it'd be interesting to weed those guys out. Pantoja versus Perez. I really thought Perez would make it a much grittier fight, but Pantoja just he had a swagger to him this whole time. Like he was talking shit. He comes out to Many Men by 50 Cent without a shirt. I'm like, this guy's a fucking baller, man. He's coming out ready to go, and he overperformed in my eyes. Like I knew very well he could do that. I knew very well he could get into a firefight, take the back, choke him out. But the way he did it was still like surprising to me. I'm like, Jesus Christ, Pantoja, you're ready for that shot. So Dana White, I think, mentioned that he might be the backup for the fourth Figgy and Moreno fight. So that'd be interesting if, say, Moreno or Figgy miss weight or whatever. More so Moreno or Figueiredo. But damn, Perez, like he just got caught. Like I can't say anything else about it. Like he got in a really bad position, and when Pantoja takes your back, it's like game over. I feel kind of bad for Perez because he didn't really get to show much like after 2-year layoff. But what are you gonna do? Next bout, Derek Lewis versus Pavlovic. I took a shot on Derek Lewis as always. I said I was gonna do a ride or die, and I did. I ended up dying, and I don't know, man. Like I hate when I say like, oh, the referee this and the referee that. I know it looked like a bad stoppage, like he got stopped early, but as I said in the group chat in the Discord, don't fucking faceplant. You know what I mean? Like I used to be one of these guys that shit on referees and the fucking judges, but after kind of acclimating myself to that world and being there cage side and seeing shit, don't fucking faceplant. That's all I have to say. Like as much as it pains me, yeah, I would have loved it. He had more time to get up and recover. It's still like when you make that visual, that split second decision by the referee, which was Dan Mergliato, like knowing that you got dropped multiple times in the previous fights, you've been knocked out multiple times. You just don't want to see that guy take much damage, so you stop the fight, and it sometimes doesn't pan out for you. It is what it is. I'm not upset at the stoppage, right? Like as much as I want to be, like I can't be. Like it was just too perfect of a situation. Like don't fucking faceplant. That's all I have to say. Pavlovic, like he's a strong brute, but I just don't see him cracking like championship level contenders, right? Like I just don't see him beating guys like Gon or beating guys like Blades or fuck even Ty. I think Ty would wreck him. I'm also interested to see if Pavlovic fights the winner of Sakai versus God damn it, Polar Bear Sergey Spivak. I'd be interested in Spivak versus Pavlovic fight. I think that'd be an interesting bout. Next out, Moreno versus Kai France. Moreno really was pissing me the fuck off. I had money. I had a parlay with him. I had Moreno and who else was it? Pantoja, which cleared, right? I got my money and left. I made a decent, like, itty bitty profit. But Moreno did show me what I worried about, what I mentioned in the original video. I'm like, dude, don't let James Krause cage the dog in you. Don't make him follow a specific game plan. Like you have to let that fucking beast out and attack Kai France and pressure him. He was letting Kai off the hook, and Kai, I have to say, he looked great for those first 3 rounds. Like he was cracking Moreno. He was moving well, feinting well, attacking the legs well. Like Moreno, I fucking hate saying it, but like he looked like he regressed a little bit despite the win, despite that beautiful liver kick, man. At first I thought he kicked him in the dick, and I was like, I didn't see nothing. You know what I mean? And then he started pouncing on him, but then it, the ref didn't stop it. And then I'm like, oh, he must have hit him in the liver really hard, which he did. It was a perfectly placed kick to the body, and he's just beautiful. It was like, damn, he finished him. Like, who finishes Cachoeira France with strikes? And it's like, it was a great win for him. But I'll say this: I think I'm going to be on the Figgy side if the fourth fight does end up happening. Just I didn't like a lot of what I saw from Moreno in those first 3 rounds, and if it turns out to be another decision fight, I think Figueiredo is probably going to out edge him. And it sucks to see, but we'll see. I've picked every single of those fights wrong, so we'll see what happens in that fight when it comes. And Juliana Pena versus Amanda Nunes. I have to say, Pena. I'm not going to shit on Pena, nor do I intend to, nor do I think lesser of her. She fucking looked every bit of badass in that fight. Like, she was losing that whole fight to Amanda Nunes, who I must admit she made the proper adjustments, and I commend her for that. I still don't consider her to be the GOAT. Like, I just don't. I will never consider her to be the best women's fighter, despite all the accolades. I know there's something off there. I know I just don't have that comfortability with her. I don't think she's shown me enough. Beating a girl's like Pena. I mean, losing to a girl like Pena, who is fundamentally flawed when it comes to her striking, her defense. Like, she didn't even try wrestling, which is all on her. But regardless, like, Pena tried, and I'm always a fan of these fighters who, despite being outgunned, like getting their asses beat, they don't give up. And even though Pena lost the belt, and I lost a couple bucks, and I mean literally, I put like $9 on it to win just for the fuck of it, just so I can say that I bet Pena, and suck my dick. Um, it wasn't necessarily what I expected, right? Like, Amanda definitely proved me wrong, which is like great. Like, when people prove me wrong, when I shit on them, I don't mind being wrong. It's more of like, I'm glad that you made the proper adjustments, because in the long run, it's good for everybody. Like, I want these fighters to continue getting better. In this case, she showed me her true potential. Like, as I mentioned, like, she must be on that same all natural Charles Oliveira anti-quit regimen, because she was in that armbar. I'm like, here it comes, baby. It was a pretty good armbar, but she defended well. Like, she didn't panic. So maybe it is true that she wasn't feeling 100% in the first fight. But like, when you see shit like that, where there's a choke that's not a choke, no hooks, and she taps out to nothing, I'm like, come on, man. Like, how am I going to trust you? But sports psychologist perhaps might have been in play. But Juliana Pena, I will say this: I will always see a Juliana Pena fight from moving forward. Like, despite her winning or losing, I'm going to be a fan. Like, I used to not like her in the past for a specific stupid reason on my part, but Jesus Christ, that bitch is a bad bitch, man. And I will say it here: I will take minus 500 odds on Pena's daughter versus Nunez's daughter. That's a steal for me. But let's move on to the actual card at hand: Santos versus Hill. First fight of the night, taking place at, what fucking is this? This is bantamweight. We've got Mayra Bueno Silva versus Stephanie Eggers. Currently, the Stephanie Eggers, Egger, not Eggers. Currently, the odds have it in favor of Silva is a minus 125. Comeback on Egger is a plus 105. Let me move this shit over here so I can see it, because this one, starting off, I don't know how to feel about it, because it's more of a higher level women's MMA bout, but there's some concern when it comes to Bueno Silva. I think her striking's good. I think her jiu-jitsu's good. Her willingness on the ground concerns me. Like, she's willing to stay on her back too fucking often. Like, she should not be doing that. Like, she I don't know what it is about her. Like, she's in this fantasy world where she thinks her output on the bottom is going to win her a fight, despite her getting laid on by the fighter on top. Was her last fight a split decision? Let me take a look. With Yanan Wu, I mean, I picked Silva by submission, which didn't cover. I had her on some parlay straight, which ended up cashing, but it was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you're much better than this. Why are you not actively trying, right? Like, she just seems content in certain cases. And Stephanie Egger, I've had my concerns with Egger in the past, like this, like, takedown defense and the lack of power. But as of late, she's been getting some pretty decent power out of that right hand. And I'm impressed by her overall win streak. Like, she's been finishing girls regardless of the level that they are, she's actually been finishing these girls, Shanna Young and Jessica Rose Clark. And I worry that Bueno Silva being the better fighter with the better training camp in Chuto Box Diego Lima, training with the champ, right? Is she going to be too willing to like play off of her back if Stephanie Egger takes her down, being that she's a high level judoka? I mean, they're the same height. I know Eggers has about 1.5 inch reach advantage, good enough for her to land that sneaky straight right hand. What's going to happen in this fight? And like personally, I do think Silva's the better fighter between the two. I think she's more well rounded. The kicks are there, the striking's getting better. I think just her willingness to to scrap a little too much, a little what's the word? Throwing caution in the wind. I think it might favor Stephanie Egger, taking her down and holding her there for not necessarily the majority of the rounds, but enough to edge out the rounds. So for that reason, at dog odds, I think I'll go with Stephanie Eggers. But this is a coin flip for me. I don't fucking touch it unless you're one of those people that likes to bet the women's MMA underdog all the time, because I think it's a pretty profitable. This one's not necessarily super low level. It's like medium level. I think they're on the cusp of general high level. Fuck, it's tough. I will stay away from it, but I will say Egger by decision. This one's tough. But moving on, we've got oh shit, another one: Corey McKenna versus Miranda Granger. This is at straw weight. Let's take a look at the odds on this one. The odds have it in favor of McKenna. It's a minus 225. Come back on Granger plus 175. Honestly, the odds for me are going to dictate this one. I'll take Granger. She's a much taller girl. She's on a 2-fight losing streak. But I think she can use her length. I think she can use her general jiu-jitsu skills. She's not terrible. It's just that she, has been fighting decent competition. I shit on Ashley Yoder all you want, but I like Ashley Yoder. She makes fights entertaining and she can edge out decisions. And then she fought Lemos, right? You can't discredit a girl for losing to Amanda Lemos. I can discredit a girl for losing to Elise Reed by split decision in her home country. As you can see in the picture in front of you, she got cracked quite a bit by Elise Reed, and she couldn't really hold her down. I don't know if she's going to be able to hold or even take down Miranda Granger. I know McKenna trains at Team Alpha Male, and her grappling's not terrible, but she's given up 4 inches in height and a lot of inches, nearly 10 inches in reach. It's a no-brainer for me. I'm going to go with Miranda Granger at those odds. It's like, how can she not lose this one, right? I know how she can lose this one, but I'll take a shot. Like, she's too much of a favorite. She shouldn't be that big of a favorite. That's ridiculous. Low-level women's MMA. I'll go with the underdog on this one. I'll go with Granger by a decision. Next bout. Ooh, these fights are getting easier and easier. We've got Jason Witt versus Josh Quinlan, and currently the odds have it in favor. Let's take a look. Jason Witt is okay. No, Josh Quinlan is minus 200. Come back on Witt plus 170. Now with Witt, we know the case, right? He's 19-8, and out of his last 3 losses, let's take a look. Knockout Takashi Sato. Knockout Matthew Semmelsberger, knockout Phil Rowe. And for Josh Quinlan, he's undefeated. And as of his last fight, he fought a guy named Logan Urban, and he knocked him the fuck out in the Contender Series. But if you can tell, well, I guess my cursor doesn't show, he's got a bit of a needle stuck in his neck. This guy's been doing some shit. I don't know what he got popped for, but he got popped for something. Like, to me, it doesn't matter. He's still 29 years old. His physique, here's the shit. If he looks good like he looks in this picture on the weigh-ins, I think it's fucking shooting ducks in a barrel. Or is it fish in a barrel? Shooting fish in a barrel. Jason Witt's chin, it just needs to be cracked just the once. This guy, Josh Quinlan, I think he's strong. And at those odds, I'll probably just take him. I won't put him on any parlays, but I'll just take him by knockout because it's more I'm fading Jason Witt's chin. Jason Witt's a strong guy. He's a strong wrestler, and absolutely he can win this fight. But odds are, second round starts, he gets cracked and he drops like a fucking sack of potatoes. So I'll go with Josh Quinlan to continue his roid rage and get a knockout, I will say, in the second round, because as much as I want to say the first, Jason Witt, he is very crafty and he can hold you down for a bit, try to tire you out, And just like with Phil Rowe, second round comes, gets blasted. So I'll go with Quinlan, second round knockout. Next bout taking place also at welterweight. Takashi Sato versus Brian Battle, who is moving down in weight. And currently the odds have it in favor of Brian Battle minus 225. Comeback on Sato is a plus 190. First, right off the bat, this is a big step up for, I put Takashi Sati, whatever. These fucking cards. Anyways, Brian Battle, it's a big step up in competition for him. Like, he is 7-1. His last fight was against Trayshawn Gore, which is a pretty close fight. And we saw what happened to Gore in his last fight. And it makes you kind of wonder, like, how good is Brian Battle? I like what I've seen from him overall. Like, I call him the mulatto Bisping because he does very similar things to what Bisping does. He outpaces you. He has a great cardio, doesn't have the greatest power, but he's just so overall well-rounded, and he weaponizes that pace so damn well. He just chips away at you, and sometimes that's all you really need. Like, I was going to say, it reminds me a little bit of how, what the fuck is that Torkin bastard's name? I always forget. The guy who fought Paddy Pimblett. Name is escaping me right now because it doesn't matter, but like, he was using very simple techniques to kind of keep Paddy away, but he wasn't throwing them actively and often. Battle does that. He throws teeps up the middle. He throws lots of kicks to distance you, and then he throws a lot of punches. Sato has the power, but at this point, like, I've kind of, I don't know if Sato has what it takes to be in the UFC. Like, he can crack dudes, but he doesn't have the overall game needed for the UFC. And although I do think that he has a chance of beating Brian Battle, I just think that Battle has him outgunned everywhere other than the power. Like, he's going to have the height advantage, the reach advantage, and with the type of cardio that Brian Battle possesses at that weight class, if he makes weight at 170, I think he's just going to he's just going to chop him up with kicks and slight punches, and he's going to edge his decision win quite easily. I don't think Battle's going to make any boneheaded mistakes here. I think he's a pretty overall solid guy. And I think he can go far. Like, as long as he makes the right adjustments and he continues at a certain trajectory, doesn't take fights that he shouldn't be taking. Like, say, for example, he wins this fight and they put him up with Ian Gary Machado. I always find that funny. That might be too much of a tough fight. I think Ian Gary's too slick on the feet, roughly around the same size, I think. As long as he keeps taking gradual steps up, I do think Sato might be like borderline, but we'll see what happens. But I got Battle by decision. Next bout, Terrence McKinney versus Eric Ghost Pepper Gonzalez. Let me see if the odds have changed, because he was like minus 1,000. Minus 1,000 still for Terrence McKinney. Eric Gonzalez is a plus 625. Now, is there a shot that Gonzalez cracks Terrence McKinney? Like, yeah, of course. You know, Terrence McKinney, I don't necessarily think he has a chin issue. I think he just has a pacing issue and cardio issue as well. Like, he goes so fucking hard. And as we saw with his fight with Drew Dober, he finished Drew Dober multiple times in New York. If this fight was in New York, this shit would have been finished like ages ago, because they're more strict on how to finish fights. But it didn't happen that way. Jesus, Terrence McKinney and Drew Dober. What a crazy fight. But yeah, Terrence, I think he's just too damn good. As long as he doesn't make the same mistakes, he's going to finish Eric Gonzalez pretty easily. I cannot stress this enough. Gonzalez can crack. He's not a terrible fighter. He's just a bit inexperienced when it comes to high-level fights, right? Like, he fought Jim Miller his last fight, and he was doing fairly well against Jim Miller. Like, he wasn't getting blown out of the water. And Jim Miller cracked him and finished him. And I always look back at what I said in that fight. Like, I think Jim Miller is going to accidentally knock out Eric Gonzalez on his way to submitting him. Like, he's going to set up a strike to try to take him down and sub him, and he's going to accidentally knock him out, which he did. I don't think Terrence McKinney's going to accidentally do anything. I think he's going to purposely fuck this boy up. So I'll go with Terrence McKinney first round knockout. Now, I must stress this, when shit like that happens, like with Terrence McKinney in his last fight, fighters come out a little gun shy, and that does worry me here. I don't think Terrence McKinney's that kind of guy. I think deep down he's like 100 miles an hour. but we'll see what happens. Like I always look back because of like Olberg, he gets fucked up in his debut, and then he comes out very tentative after a knockout loss. That might happen here. I'm gonna not count on that. I'm gonna go with Terrence McKinney still round number one knockout. Probably put a little bit of money on that. And I mean a little bit, just because like Terrence McKinney's kind of in timeout right now. You cannot trust him to do shit until he shows us that he's composed, and we'll see what happens. But Terrence McKinney round number one knockout. Next bout taking place at middleweight, we've got Michal Olenjejek versus Smiling Sam Alvey. And this is the prelim main event. And currently the odds on these two guys, let's see here. Holy crap. Michal is at minus 550. Come back on Alvey is a plus 375. You can get him as high as like plus 430. This one, as some of the more experienced cappers would say, it's priced out. You can't touch it. You can't touch it. Like Sam Alvey, despite him not winning a fight since God knows when. And well, here's the shit. You can see in the picture in front of you, he's got the book that says how to win a fight. He's prepared now. Like he just wasn't ready. He hadn't read his materials yet. So I think he's very dangerous now. This guy is just a fucking zombie. Like you cannot get rid of him. He's going to keep coming back. I don't know what the hell. Like I'm not in favor of guys losing their job. Like Sam Alvey's a nice fucking guy. He's cool. He's always smiling. But there's like, why? Fucking John Fitch got cut after having a fight of the night performance bout in one fight, and then he gets grapple fucked by Damian Maia the next fight, and he gets cut. And then Sam Alvey, who hasn't won a fight in God knows how long, is still in the UFC. So it's like, I'm not complaining. Like, keep the meme going, but what the hell? Michal, he's just too good, right? Like his boxing's too good. He's not the bigger guy, but he's going to be the faster guy. I think his boxing combinations are really crisp. Output has always been the problem with Sam Alvey, and I've always said if Sam Alvey bites on the mouthpiece and throws, he's always got a good chance of knocking his opponent out. Like he's not a terrible fighter. It's just that he has terrible, what's the proper terminology? He's not a terrible fighter. It's just that he has a terrible game plan and a terrible mentality in there. I don't know what it is about him loving to counter-strike. Like, dude, it hasn't been working for you. I'm sure he knows that. It's just, we'll see. Like, I'm low-key rooting for Sam Alvey to win this fight. I'm always rooting for Sam Alvey just because I think it'd be fantastic. Like, hey, now I can retire. Now I can go into the sunset and bang my hot wife, which, well, I guess she was a supermodel, but whatever. But Michal for me, round number one knockout. I think after that last fight with him and Jacoby, like he looked good against Jacoby. It's just Jacoby outmanned him and just pulled a vet lesson on him. Like he was just too crafty for him that day. But I think Mihal's his striking's always been crisp, and when he starts letting his hands go, it's going to be really tough to defend. And Alvey's once legendary chin, I don't think he can take it. So I'll go with round number one knockout for Michal. Next bout, we've got women's flyweight. We've got Ariane Lipski versus Priscilla Cachoeira. Queen of Violence versus Zombie Girl. Right then and there, I think it gives it away. Like Queen of Violence and a Zombie Girl. Like as much as I kind of want to shit on this fight for being the main card opener and whatever, I actually am looking forward to it. These two girls are strikers. They're going to come out here. They're both Brazilian. They're going to be fighting for bragging rights. It's going to be pretty fucking good. Not good in the sense of like technical stuff. It's just going to be a sloppy brawl, and I'm here for it. Fantastic. I'm interested to see what happens on this one. And the odds currently have it in favor of Lipski minus 155. Come back on Cachoeira plus 135. Cachoeira, with a certain level of competition, you got to take a shot on her. I don't think this is it. Like okay, how can I explain? Live betting might be the best option if you want to touch it, because if Lipski comes out here like not throwing, I think Cachoeira can make it very dirty and edge out a decision. I know a lot of people were pissed off that Cachoeira won that last fight against Kim, which was really close. I think I had Cachoeira as a dog to win that one. I can't remember, man. I don't keep track of my bets. I'm not like uber focused on that shit. I just do this shit for fun. But a lot of people were pissed off about that. And the thing about judging a fight is that as much as you might feel butthurt about a decision, sometimes judges don't see everything as clearly as you can on the TV screen. And I'll probably make videos about that in the near future about like certain fights. I'm going to go back and like judge fights that have happened that have been close and give you my thoughts on it as a professional judge. But when it comes to like really close women's MMA fights where there's a girl who's willing to fucking put her chin in there, tuck her chin and bite on the mouthpiece and go forward, it can somehow sway the judges based on the limited action sometimes. Like if, say, you see Priscilla getting pieced up on the outside for a majority of the fight, and then she moves forward and cracks Ariane Lipski, like a solid punch to the mouth, kind of staggers her. And then Lipski's like, no, 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 no. Like sometimes that's enough for a woman to, or a fighter in general, to win a round. If there's a whole lot of nothing really, like if Chukagian is kicking you from the outside, landing with the fucking big toe to the bottom of your calf, and you're just not doing shit, then there's 30 seconds left in the round, and then you've eaten, let's just say 40 unanswered baby leg kicks, and then you land a solid fucking punch to the mouth that may cause some damage, maybe a little swelling. And I mean, just a one punch, there are going to be certain judges that will give that round to the opponent. And we kind of saw that with Hamdi and what's his face, Dontel Mays, like in that third round. He got dominated that whole third round, and then he throws some decent punches. Not enough, though, but one judge gave it to him. And you got to remember, you're not necessarily betting on who you think is going to win when it comes to a close fight. You're going to bet on who you think the judges think is going to win. And for that reason, Cachoeira's not always a good bet as a dog, but it's like live betting. If you think it might be a little close and you think maybe the judges are missing something, take a shot on Cachoeira. Like, it's, why not? I might do that. But overall, Lipski's a much better technical fighter. I know she just beat Mandy Baum, who is just Mandy Bum. God, I can't believe I called her Mandy Tiger Bomb. Anyways, she's just more technical. My biggest concern with her is that she doesn't pull the trigger sometimes. She gets a little over excited and she can get taken down. I don't think Priscilla's going to be that girl. They're just going to swing and bang until one of them potentially falls. But I have got Lipski by decision. Cachoeira is super fucking tough. But yeah, keep an eye out. I would say stay away from betting Lipski. I would say if you're going to bet this one, potentially just bet it live. If you see Cachoeira as a plus 500 and you think the first two rounds were close and you think maybe a couple stupid judges might give it to her. So keep that in mind. Next bout, Augusto Sakai versus Sergey Spivak. And the odds have it in favor of, where is that one? Minus 224 Spivak. Come back on Sakai is a plus 180. Now, this one, I think the odds indicate kind of where most people's thoughts are going to be. Pardon me. Sakai's been knocked out 3 times in a row, and I think he's got that, as I call it, broken toy syndrome. Like, do they want him out of the UFC? Spivak, he doesn't have the greatest power. He's not the greatest fighter, but he's an overachiever in my eyes. Like, I think he's really trying, and he's really fucking trying to become a top level heavyweight. It's just that there's going to be a certain level of guys that he just can't beat. And Sakai at one point was that level of guy that I don't think he could have beaten because he's overall pretty good. Like, good striker, good kicks, good cardio, a lot of volume. He's a pretty tall guy himself, 6'3". They're both 6'3". It's just that he's been knocked out 3 times in a row. And at heavyweight, you could blame it on either it's heavyweight, you can get cracked, or his chin is just deteriorated. And Sergey Spivak, who's got a pretty decent straight, I think it's a straight right hand, can that hurt Augusto Sakai? And can he take him down and finish him on the ground? Because Spivak he's a fucking mauler for real. He's pretty good. He's a polar bear for a reason. But I always think about, like, am I fading the chin or am I fading the fighter? Because I think Augusto Sakai he's a good fighter. It's just that, can he take it anymore? Can he continue to take punches? And I'm just not sure. And like, I'm tempted to take Sakai on like the sheer chance that he has really worked on his defense and learned to protect his chin and, really train hard for this one against Spivak. But I know what I can expect from Spivak. I can expect multitude of takedown attempts. I can expect a really strong fucking guy, a lot of body locks, good ground and pound, and decent striking on the feet. This one's tough. As much as Spivak should be the favorite, I do get this sneaky suspicion that Sakai can win it. And I think of Mateus Schufel, or whatever the fuck his name, who beat Bruno Capoloza in the PFL. Like, we all expected Bruno to fuck him up, and Shuffle just, he fucking decisioned him. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? So despite Shuffle having a, at the time, notoriously bad chin, like, it held up. So we'll see what happens with this one. I'll still take Spivak because I know what to expect from him, and I just don't know what to expect from Sakai. I'll stay away from it though. Like, I think Sakai has a chance here to really get back on track, because like he lost to some really good competition, right? He was beating Alistair Overeem until I think the fourth or fifth round, where he kind of got tired and he got ground and pounded. He fell for that trap. Like, he fell for the veteran trap of Overeem. And then we got Rosenstrike at the time. Rosenstrike's a marauder. He catches you once. There's no shame in getting knocked out by him. And then Tai Tuivasa fucked him up. I really thought Augusto was going to beat Tai Tuivasa. But Tai, he's really, really overall completed his game. And I think we might be seeing the complete package of Tai Tuivasa. We'll see how he does against Gon, for real. We'll see if he's like about that life, about like, hey, I want to be a champion. But Tai Tuivasa, like, he's getting a lot better. So there's no real shame in that one either. So we'll see what happens, because in the past I would have taken Augusto Sakai to beat the shit out of Sergey Spivak, but these are different times. This is 2022, but I'll go with Spivak, but no play for me on this one. I won't put it on any parlays. It's just too risky. Next bout, we've got the first of two Ultimate Fighter contract fights. We've got Juliana Miller versus Brogan Walker. And let's take a look at the odds. We've got Miller minus 140. Comeback on Walker is a plus 120. This one is god tough, because I actually watched the entire Ultimate Fighter like a savage. Like, I need help. But I came across these two ladies, and I wasn't overall impressed by their skill set. Like, Brogan Walker, I think she is overall the more complete fighter between these two. She's got pretty decent striking, good takedown defense, good jiu-jitsu. She's just fundamentally solid. There's an X factor when it comes to Juliana Miller. I mean, her jiu-jitsu is pretty good. She's very creative in there. Like, she's not like Charles Oliveira level, but she has glimpses of that. Like, oh, she's very creative on the ground, but she's overall 2-1 in her career compared to the 7-2 of Brogan Walker. And she's got the experience advantage. How old is Juliana Miller? Killer Miller versus the Bear Walker. This one's fucking tough, because the way I see this one is that it really reminds me of the female version of Ricky Tercios versus Brady Heisted. Brady Heisted, to me, I think he was a more well-rounded guy, but Ricky was more wild in there and crazy with the exchanges. And Juliana Miller has that. Like, she's willing to take a shot. Her striking is, from what I saw last, shit trash. Like, terrible, awful. She ducks her head in. She just starts swinging, very much so like her coach, Juliana Pena. And it's like, oh, it's bad. But when she gets a hold of you and she takes you down, she's pretty solid on the bottom. This one's tough as hell. Miller is going to be the taller girl by 3 inches, same reach. I cannot predict this one accurately, because there's too many variables on this one. To me, I think Miller is who the UFC want to win, because she's very fun to watch. Like, sloppy or not, she's very fun. She's very entertaining, right? Absolutely. She's kind of got like that female Diaz in her. She's willing to scrap. She's kind of dumb in, like, you know what I mean? But that lack of wisdom, I should say, kind of benefits her in fights, because she's willing to put herself in bad situations where she might get her back taken. In that case, she could reverse it and get on top. And I'm like, oh shit, like, she's going to win. Like, you've seen that shit happen a lot. Like, people get taken down. You're like, oh, they're in a bad situation. They reverse it. They get on top and they end up winning the fight. Kind of like, what's his name? God damn it. Danish Dynamite. I can't remember his fucking name, but I'm going to go on a limb and go with Miller on this one, because although Walker, to me, I think she's the much better fighter. I just think that X factor from Miller is going to make it really close, and her willingness to take those shots and getting close to take down Brogan Walker probably take her back, and she's got a good back take. I'll go with Miller to win this one by just a decision. I think both these girls are, but I'll go with Juliana Miller. I think she would be a good addition. She'd put on some great fights. And Brogan, I just don't think she'd have that level of success because she's kind of a point fighter in my eyes, and she doesn't really possess an overall fun style. Next bout at heavyweight, we've got Zach Pauga, the Ripper, versus the Motor Muhammad Usman. And the odds, I am intrigued by these odds. Where are they? Why don't I see the odds for this one? Let me look them up real quick. They're not in this site. Because I'm very, very interested. Here we go. Usman is at plus 200. Comeback on Pauga is a minus 235. So watching Usman fight in the PFL, his last loss officially was against Brandon Sales. And Brandon Sales, I remember seeing that fight live. Brandon Sales was a tough Hawaiian dude. He got cracked by Usman and did not deter him. He ended up finishing Usman with a rear naked choke. And from what I've seen from Usman, he's nicknamed the Motor because allegedly he's got solid cardio. He can go for days. And to an extent he can in the right circumstances. But arguably his two fights in the contender series, goddamn it, and tough. He arguably lost both those fights. You can make a what do you call it, an argument that he could have lost both those fights. The first one for sure. The second one, I thought he won it, but you could still make the argument. He's 33 years old, 6'2". He's a big dude, right? And he's just not overall impressive. Like training with his brother, you would expect him to have a bit more expertise on one or another thing. Like the wrestling is not all that great. Doesn't really wrestle from what I can see. His striking's like just kind of swinging wild. He doesn't necessarily have any solid technique, but he's a grinder on the feet, which is weird to say. Like he doesn't necessarily possess huge power, but he can out volume you on the feet by throwing a shit ton of volume and then pushing you against the cage. For Zach, on the other hand, his striking is really good. Good low kicks, good straight punches. He's more athletic. I just don't see a world where Usman wins this fight. Like the only way I see this fucking happening is if his brother pulls some strings, puts some horse tranquilizer in Zach's coffee or whatever, and he ends up super sluggish. And whatever. But to me, Zach was the much better fighter, the clear number one seed in that show. Like he was just landing at will. Takedown defense was good. He just has that motivation. I just think he's going to be too tough for Usman. I think he's going to really put it on Usman. I don't think it's going to go inside the distance. I think Pauga wins this one by a decision. My biggest concern, though, is that Usman can make it really close. He definitely can by not necessarily landing cleanly, but just appearing to land and just control time, which pisses me off, man. I hate this goddamn control time. But I think if Zach comes in here correct, spams leg kicks well, moves his head very well like he does, I think he can really capitalize on Usman, who keeps his head kind of stationary. He doesn't move his head. He kind of moves forward like kind of very mechanical, which is fitting for the Motor nickname. Like just boom, boom, boom. Nothing very clean, but we'll see what happens. But I'll go with Zach. I'm going to say by decision. I think he edges this one pretty easily. I wouldn't be surprised if he finishes him, but I mean, Usman's pretty tough. Like he's got a big fucking head. I think he can take punches. And for sure, Zach, he's a tough. I don't know if he's Hawaiian or whatever, but he's a tough Polynesian fighter. Next bout, Vicente Luque versus Jeff Neal at welterweight, and the odds currently have it in favor of. I'm going to say it's going to be Vicente. Yep, minus 155. Come back on Jeff Neal plus 135. And shit on me all you want. I'm a big fan of Vicente Luque. Been a big fan of his for a long fucking time. Just what he can do. He's finally hitting that age of make it or break it. He's 30 years old. He's no longer like a 27-year-old prospect. He's 30, and we'll see what he can do, because he's got very limited time, in my opinion. Like his last fight with Muhammad, like I picked him to win. I was very confident he was going to beat Muhammad, because like, hey, Muhammad can definitely grind him out for a bit, but Vicente just has to land the one solid punch. He didn't seem all that like concerned with throwing though, which was like, dude, what the hell? Like, it's okay if you lose the fight, but at least try. And to me, it didn't seem like he really tried. Like he hurt him in one round, I think the third, and he just got taken down. I'm like, how is your takedown defense getting worse? Because like it wasn't anything spectacular from Usman, from Muhammad. It was just like the same shit over and over. And I'm like, dude, you should, what the fuck, dude? And for Jeff Neal, he's fallen on really hard times, right? Like he had some issues in the past with the law, turned out to be nothing. And then he fought some tough competition, Wonder Boy before he kind of fell off a little bit. And then Neil Magny, I still think he won that fight. It's like volume versus power. You know, if you're connecting on a fighter and you're landing the more significant strikes opposed to like the pitter patter, I always give it to that guy. But it was tough. Like to me, he should be on a 2-fight winning streak, and then he fought Ponzinibbio, who, God, man, I would have loved the Ponzinibbio versus Vicente Luque, but I don't know if they would fight. But to me, though, I do think that Jeff Neal is live as a dog on this one. I think they're both very talented strikers. I think Jeff Neal might be the stronger guy. I think he's more willing to try to grapple. And Jeff Neal's got a pretty solid fucking chin. He's tough as hell. He's gone 5 rounds. He's got good cardio. It's just, I think he's over that hurdle of like, I'm on a 2-fight losing streak, and he just beat Ponzinibbio, who arguably a lot of people say beat Michel Pereira. I don't fucking see it. You know, Jesus, like I think hands of steel, Jeff Neal can win this one, as much as it pains me, because I do like Vicente Luque. Like he's one of my favorite fighters to watch, because he's just bleed all the time. Like, fuck your pussy takedowns, I'm going to beat your ass or submit you. It's going to be fun to watch, period. Like to me, it's a 50-50 matchup. And I'll go with Jeff Neal on this one, because I just think if he takes a page out of Muhammad's playbook and just goes for a takedown, I think he can mix in takedowns better because of his willingness to strike. And I think his striking's very clean on the feet, right? He's got hell of power in those hands. And that left, I think it's a left high kick. I can't remember. Can't remember if he's orthodox or southpaw. I'm leaning southpaw. But it should be a hell of a fight between these two as a co-main. So I'll go with Jeff Neal on this one. I think he edges out a decision, because he's a tough son of a bitch. Both these guys are. I'm not picking against Luque because he lost to Muhammad. It's not the case. Like, as much as it disappoints me, because I'm not a fan of Muhammad's fighting style. Like personally, I don't want to say I met him, but like I was near him at one point. He seemed like a cool dude. Like I wasn't actively trying to talk to him or nothing. He was just there with the crowd, and I was just kind of watching him. And I left, but he seemed like a cool dude, like in person. I know he talks a lot of shit, but his fighting style is like piss poor for me. Like it's a winning style. It's not for me. It's just not for me. Like, I don't know. I must have something against him. I don't know what it is. Bilal's beak, where you at? Let me know. But for me, Jeff Neal, I just think he's going to be the smarter guy. I think he can dictate a solid pace and do enough to beat Vicente Luque without being in danger. Luque's so damn dangerous, though. That's why I love watching him fight. And in situations like this, where I know that Jeff Neal's chin can take a punch, opposed to like Muhammad, who I'm like, yeah, he can grind him out, but can he take the punch? I think Jeff Neal's very, very live to win this one as a dog by decision. So I'll go with him by decision. Next bout, main event, Thiago Marreta Santos versus Jamal Hill, as Jose calls him Maleta, because he's no longer the hammer. Maleta, I think, fucking carry-on bag in Spanish. Speaking of which, motherfucker's not here, because I don't know where the fuck he's at. He had a date yesterday, and I don't know if he got murdered or he had a really good night, but hopefully he's not covered in his own blood. But currently the odds have it in favor of Jamal Hill, minus 275. Comeback on Santos is a plus 210. And for me, this one, it's a no fucking brainer. Jamal Hill's going to win this one. Like, what are the odds that Santos can crack Hill? There's a good chance, but Santos now in 2022, who is 38 years old, who is a father, who's content with his, I don't know if they're married, him and, God damn it, what the hell is her name? I can see her now, but whatever. Her and that Yana Kunitskaya are married, but I just don't see the same Thiago Santos. I have not seen him in the last few fights. Like he's he has that aura of like, oh fuck, it's Thiago Santos. I know what he can do, but can he still do it? Can he still spin? Can he still go forward? Like double knee surgery. He's only got one fight in the UFC, or not one fight, but out of his last 5 fights, he's got one win over Johnny Walker, and he didn't knock him out. It was a decision. He outpointed him. Jamal Hill fucking murdered Johnny Walker, sent him back to 2007, and he's doing the ball and dance. Oh, man. Jamal Hill, at one point, I wasn't certain on him. I'm like, I don't know how good this guy is. Like, I took OSP to beat him. I'm like, OSP is one of these guys that, like, he can beat a lot of guys if you sleep on him. And I'm like, he's a good test. I'll take a shot on him to beat Jamal Hill. And he fucking destroyed OSP. And Jamal Hill's shown me a lot of maturity in his last few fights. Like he was an underdog against Jimmy Crute, and I'm like, he's gonna fuck up Jimmy Crute. As much as I hate to say that, I like Jimmy a lot. And he beat him up. He finished him in the first round. And then obviously he was going to knock out Johnny Walker. There's no brainer there. But the Paul Craig fight, I keep going back to it. Like, he made a mistake there. He 100% made a fucking mistake. Like, it wasn't to me that Paul Craig caught him. It's just that to me, it's always been props on Paul Craig because he is super fucking dangerous. The way he took that arm on the bottom was like beautiful. Like, you cannot, in certain cases, teach that kind of guard. Like, you have to be natural. Like, I could never fucking do that as many times as I want to. Like, the way he just shifted his weight and got the armbar was absolutely fantastic. And then to the triangle. But the biggest mistake is that Jamal Hill was overconfident in himself and went to the ground and tried to beat Paul Craig there, like trying to prove a point. And to me, that Jamal Hill's not, he's gone. He ain't coming back. That fucker learned from that. I think he really needed that loss to put him into perspective of, if I want to make a run for the title, I got to fight smart. But when he fought Johnny Walker, he didn't fight necessarily like safe. He went out there and he did what he had to do the way he had to do it. I think he's going to do that shit here with Thiago Santos. He's not going to particularly respect what he can do. He's going to respect what he is able to do. Like, he's going to respect the leg kicks, respect the speed. But I think he's going to walk him down, cut off the cage, and then crack him. Like, he's just going to, I just think he's going to land at will from afar. He's got a 3-inch reach advantage. He's going to use that to effect. He's going to push him against the cage, kind of cut off the cage, and then just start landing the jab, and then eventually just attack the body and then set up that left hand, and it's going to put him out. I really do think he's going to finish Thiago Santos. If he finishes Santos, holy shit, if he finishes Santos, he could potentially get a matchup with Magomed, and that would be phenomenal. That would be fucking dope for a possible number one contendership. I'd love to see it. Like, if he finishes Santos, that'd be, to me, like, oh shit, like let's talk about title contention with this guy. But we'll see what happens with these two. I know I keep saying we'll see what happens because, like, you got to respect a guy like Santos, despite his, he's getting up there in age. He's got 2 bad knees, and he just hasn't looked the same. It just takes one bit of, like, fuck it in him to say, I'm going to throw a spinning wheel kick, and Jamal Hill won't see it coming, and it cracks him and knocks him out. Likelihood of that happening is very low, but to me, clear as day for me. Jamal Hill, round number 2 knockout. First round is going to be a bit of a feeling out process, a little bit of a patty cake. And then round number 2, Jamal Hill's going to be like, I got his timing, put him up against the cage. I know where to stand to land my punches, and he's going to let him rip, and he's going to finish Thiago Santos in the second round. So I got Jamal Hill, second round knockout. And for parlays, I've got myself a D-Gen parlay going on here. This is something I will be doing. Let's see what we got so far. So I'm going to go with Terrence McKinney at currently minus 910. I don't give a fuck. I'm going to do it anyways. I've got Michal, got Brian Battle. I got Josh Quinlan. These are all going to be probably money line. I'm going to go with Jeff Neal. I'm going to go with Spivak, and I'm going to go with Hill. That is a 7-person parlay. And odds that it gives me, let me look and see. It won't show me. Plus 1,288. So $20 on that gets me $257. I will be posting this particular parlay as long as I get to the casino in time on the Instagram. Probably even post it on the Discord. So make sure you follow that, and links will be below. But yeah, those are my picks. That's going to be my stupid parlay for the week. Hopefully it cashes. I'm crossing my fingers. I'm the kind of guy that I'd rather bet these stupid ones for small amounts of money because I prefer the feeling of like, fuck you, suck my dick, opposed to like, I bet this guy who should have won and I made money. I'm like, it's fine. I do those bets, but those aren't the bets that make me fulfilled. I like these dumbass parlays. Those fucking get my engine going. But that's been Johnny from Tiger Bomb MMA. Hopefully Jose's not dead in some ditch somewhere. And make sure you like, share, subscribe. Fuck Goldberg.